Hello everyone, Forex here. Today we'll be talking about animations in Arma 3. I have made one video about them in the past, however that video was lacking some small details about certain animations and didn't go far beyond the most basic use. I gathered all your feedback and made this video, which should hopefully answer many more, if not all your questions. We'll start with the more basic options you have and later on move to the more complex uses, so feel free to leave at any point, try the steps in your mission and come back later for more examples. The easiest method of all of them that requires almost no knowledge of the editor is using the mod Eden Enhanced. You can download the mod from Steam Workshop, I will link to it in the video description as well. Once you have the mod, it allows you to create a unit, and while you are making it, you can select one of many different animations from a simple drop-down menu. You can also get a brief description for some of them, and you don't need to care about anything else. The animation plays by itself, it is repeated until the unit dies, and for some animations it can even use objects in a few meters area around the unit. If you are making missions for other players, you can still use the mod as it doesn't create any dependencies, meaning that players do not have to download the mod even if you use it to create the mission. So if you are new to mission editing and dislike the use of commands for whatever reason, the mod is a nice way to avoid any coding and still get a pretty solid result. Now for many situations, like mission intro or mission cutscenes that are particularly good for story-driven missions, you will need soldiers to do more specific animations, and to do that you will need to use commands. We will talk primarily about 3 different commands here: Switchmove, playMove and playMove now. They are all used in the same way. They have the same syntax, unit, command, animation, so player Switchmove animation name, or player playMove animation name, or my soldier playMove now animation name. The main difference is in how the animations are played. When you use Switchmove, the unit immediately starts playing the desired animation. It cuts straight to the start of the animation and doesn't care about anything else. The command is most useful in combination with very specific and cinematic animations, for example a soldier giving briefing to others. Such animation doesn't happen through a normal game, but only in cinematic cutscenes throughout the campaign, and it's important that the unit starts playing the given animation right away. playMove now is a bit more careful about animations. It doesn't start immediately, but waits until the current animation is complete and then tries to make a smooth transition to the given animation of your choosing. It's a lot more natural and it's excellent for ambient animations where you need a soldier to just walk around a bit or stand on a place in a more natural way than the standard one. Please note that there is a number of animations that do not have a transition from the normal state to the animation, and playMove now either doesn't work well with them or it's forced to make the same cut the Switchmove does. Your third option is to use playMove. It behaves much like playMove now, it waits until an animation is done and then tries to execute the new animation and be as smooth as possible. However, you can stack several playMove animations on top of one another and then the game tries to do them one by one as they come in. Before anything else, let me also tell you how to get the animations themselves. Open any mission or just place a unit on an empty map and playtest the scenario. Once you are in the game, press escape to open the pause menu and in the table in the middle of the screen select Animation Viewer. This takes you to the viewer itself, which is a lot like Arsenal and similar functions. You get a nice menu of all categories and individual animations in them, and you can quickly see what they look like. Please note that the unknown category hides a surprising amount of animations, some of which are actually very useful, so when you have more time, browse through them as well and see what is hidden in the unknown category. Once you select your animation, while the animation is still selected and it's being viewed, press Ctrl and C to copy its name to your clipboard. You can then Alt-Tab out of your game and open Notepad or any other text software and paste the animation name there. Then you can go back to the game and continue browsing for more animations or quit the viewer and try to use the animation. When trying to use any of the 3 mentioned commands, Switchmove, playMove or playMove now, please always use triggers or scripts. Playing animations from the unit's init box is highly unreliable and at this point not recommended. Now the bad news, some animations don't really work all that well with this or that command. It's a sad reality, sometimes you may encounter an animation that will just not work with one of these 3 commands, and you will have to try the other 2 and see which one of these works the best. It's not ideal, I know, but at this moment that's the way things work, and I'm not saying that always or very often, but every now and then you can encounter an animation that may require a bit more attention from your side. That leads me very nicely to another segment, what to do when a particular animation doesn't want to work. As with pretty much everything in the game, it's a good idea to test for each animation individually before using it in a mission, to see how it works and if it's really what you need. By testing it in the empty environment of virtual reality or just any other place where you can quickly test your code, you can find an animation that doesn't seem to be working well or at all. The viewer is your big friend. Sometimes an animation is just the way it is and it's working fine, only the movement itself seems a bit weird. And the viewer can show you how the animation is supposed to look in the ideal case. So you have tested that the animation is not playing at all, or it makes the soldier put his weapon on his back or lie down to the ground, but it's definitely not what you want. In that case you should try all 3 mentioned commands and not just one of them as I mentioned before, or try at least both Switchmove and playMove. It's possible that one command will not play the animation while the other one will. Yeah, you did all that but still get no results. In this case, another thing you can do is test the same animation on both player's unit and AI unit. It may sound a bit strange, but there's a couple of animations that aren't big friend with player control unit and may work better on AI, or the opposite, animations where the AI behavior overrides them and can only be played on player. While the number of such animations is very small, it's still a possibility that you happen to choose one of them. A great way to help AI units do what they are supposed to do is to disable certain parts of their AI behavior. You can make some animations work, but you can also achieve better results in general with any animation you want to choose for your AI companions. The AI likes to look around, scan its surroundings, and if it detects a potential threat, it can often break our animation cycles. There are cases where this is the desired behavior. For example, guards in an enemy base should stop their idle animations when enemy tanks approach, but for other cases we need them to stay in the animation and not do anything stupid, and that's not easy. My general advice is, if you don't want them to do anything stupid, don't let them do anything at all. A command disable AI lets you disable certain parts of the AI like moving, detection of enemies, seeking cover, or even changing animations at will. A great command that lets you shut down the unit for a while, transform it into a little pawn and play your desired animations, and then you can return its artificial life with enable AI command. Both of these will be listed in the code below the video along with all their possible configurations. You can use the commands to stop the AI from acting in all strange ways and see if the animation works after that. Please note that if you use disable AI anim, you are severely reducing the AI's ability to change animations, so make sure to call it after you switch the unit to your selected animation and not before. Another problem that may occur in, again, a small number of situations is that a certain animation requires the user to have a gun, or it requires the opposite and only works when the soldier does not have a gun. Most animations like these, however, try to place the gun on soldier's back or have him gesture like he's holding a gun, but you never know, maybe that's why your animation in particular doesn't work properly. The viewer should give you a strong hint on whether the soldier needs a gun or not. If the animation still doesn't work, it's a pretty bad situation and you are running out of options. One of your last hopes is attach to command, which I described in another tutorial. It lets you connect an object to another, and for some reason that can actually help in some very specific situations. Attach an AI unit to something invisible, like an invisible helipad or game logic unit, and test the animation then. You can of course combine all previously mentioned tips into one big final testing. Attach a soldier to a game logic, disable most or all its AI behavior systems. We will leave the ability to perform animations, try all 3 commands for playing animations, add or remove weapons, and double check on all the code to make sure you are writing all names correctly. If the animation still doesn't work after that, I can't do much more to help you. You can always come back here and tell me which animation you try to work with, and we can make a small list of completely broken animations. That could be fun. Alright, let me now tell you, if you've been listening at the start when I was talking about Eden Enhanced and its ability to add many animations just by selecting them from a menu, this ability isn't all that magical. It does exactly what the whole mod does, extends what the game already has to the Eden editor. It is possible to do exactly the same thing without a mod, if for some reason you don't want to use it or cannot use it. If you go to Tools and select Function Viewer, you can open a list of all functions in the game. They are sorted alphabetically and we are searching for Ambient Anim function. It is a function that allows us to quickly set up ambient animations like sitting, standing or generally spending idle time, and it's exactly what Eden Enhanced uses. So if you are like me and prefer to work without many mods, you can set up the animations just by calling the function and giving it the required arguments. You can read all of them in the function viewer. There is a very solid documentation on the function, so you should have no problem setting it up. Please note that while the function is displayed as ambient anim in the viewer, when you want to call it from a trigger or a script, you need to use its full name bis_fnc_ambient anim. And finally, the last improvement that I'm going to talk about before we get to the examples, repetition and looping. There are two ways to loop an animation, however it's very simple to determine which one to use. You will always want to use the first one, and if it doesn't work, use the second one. If you follow this rule, you can make any animation work. The first method uses the command animation state. This command can return the name of currently played animation, so we can use it in a very simple loop made with the while do structure to test when our animation ends, and at that point, play it again. The code is in the video description along with all other code. It's very simple. We are running a loop where we want to play an animation and then wait until it ends, which means a different animation starts, and at that point we go back to the start of the loop and play our animation again. This little code works best with Switchmove because of its quick nature to rapidly switch to the current animation, which results in a very smooth look overall. Many animations in Arma are designed to be repeated, and they end with the soldier in pretty much the same position that he started in, so we can immediately start playing the animation again. Well, there are some that just do not work. I assure you that I'm not making this up to upset you. There are actually some animations that will fail when you use this code, and the reason is very simple. The game can get stuck in some of these animations and it still thinks that the animation continues, while in fact it has stopped a while ago and the soldier is now hanging frozen in space and time, waiting for eternity for the animation to properly end itself. In that case, you need to use the other method, which uses pretty much exactly the same code, only it doesn't wait for the animation to change, it waits for a specified amount of time. Again, the animation viewer can tell you the time it takes each animation to play, so you can use that number to wait for the amount of time and then play the animation. When using this code, you need to differentiate between a trigger and a script. If you use scripts, you are completely fine and don't need to worry about anything. You can even use the extended version of the code that allows you to use parameters to play different animations, one per unit, with the same script. I recommend you to see my tutorials on script parameters or any material on the internet for that matter. Using parameters and then passing the unit name and animation name as arguments when calling the script gives you more freedom over the use of the script, and I think that if you understand parameters, you understand why it's such a nice thing. If you for some reason dislike scripting and prefer triggers, which okay, but trust me, scripts open doors to many interesting possibilities, you will have to use a slightly different version of the code designed for triggers. You need to wrap the code in a construct that makes it behave much like a script or custom function. That way you can use structures like while do. Link to all the code is below the video with comments and notes. Use whatever you feel most comfortable with. Okay, so now you can select and play animations, deal with potential problems along the way, use functions to play ambient, automated animations, and repeat any animation as many times as you wish. Now you should be ready to make just about anything you wish, but before you go, maybe you'd like to see a couple of nice examples of using animations in missions and see how they can be used with other commands. We'll have 3 different situations that we'll be creating to give you a general idea about how to use animations in actual missions. First one, a very simple cutscene played at the start of our mission. Now this is not a mission intro, that's a different thing. This will be just a very short cutscene and the camera will just fly across an area and towards the player, then we gain control and the mission starts. We will need the other soldiers in the base to play some animations. The ambient animations are our best bet for this case. We don't need the soldiers to do anything specific, just sort of hang around and look as normal human beings, so we'll use any method to get the ambient animations working. If you aren't a big friend of commands and functions, you can use the Eden Enhanced and its menus. I do like functions, so I'm going to call them through a trigger, and we are done. Just select the appropriate type of animation you want the soldier to perform, and the function takes care of all the rest. Now let's make a situation where we need to connect an animation to a couple other actions. I will make the player arrive at a base where he's greeted by a commander who tells him what to do and then leaves the place in a helicopter. So we'll have the commander do nothing. When the player arrives at the base, we'll wave at him. When player comes to him, he'll play a different animation, and when that animation ends, he'll get into a heli. So we'll have a number of things happening, however it's not a big deal. We just need to set up a couple of triggers in the area and play the right animations at the right time. So we'll divide the scene into several moments. The first one, we don't have to do anything. It will be just default behavior for everyone. Once the player comes close to the base, the commander should wave, that's a second moment. And we'll take care of it by making a trigger around the base and wait until the player activates it. So we'll make player the owner of the trigger. A third moment, the player is close to the commander who starts talking and then leaves. Once again, we can just make a trigger around the commander, wait until the player comes into this area and have the commander play an animation. However, instead I will call a script. To write the script, I don't need to invent or use anything new or unheard of. I'll just use the little script for looping animations. By default, that script waits until a unit plays the animation, and then makes the unit play the same animation immediately afterwards. But we can remove this loop by deleting the first and last line, and now we can do whatever we want in this script. I want to make the commander board a helicopter, so I'll use assign as cargo command, which will make the commander run to the heli and get in. And we are done with the example. If you really want to be fancy, there are plenty of different ways to continue with this scene, and plenty of ways to make the heli get away. Something I've done in the past on many occasions when I was designing missions. However, this time I will use a bit more scripting. We start in the editor and remove all fuel on the helicopter, and we will make a few waypoints for it far away from the base. Then we open our script and add 2 lines. First line will be another wait until command. That command can be very useful in many situations, and we will wait until the commander is in the helicopter. Then we will add fuel to the heli, which suddenly can take off and move to its waypoint. A completely different approach with pretty much the same result. And we are tricking the player into thinking that the pilot is actually waiting for the commander, and in fact he really wants to fly away but has no fuel to do so. And our last example, let's fix a car. This has enormous potential. You could possibly make this into a very nice script that can have AI fix any car in the proximity of their station with multiple animations and fixing procedures. However, in our case, we will keep it very simplistic and we'll have an AI fix a stationary car. So let's create a car. We'll set the damage bar to about 70%, make a soldier, name him, and make a trigger that makes him perform the car fix animation. We can use ambient anim or use the animation found in the viewer, either way works fine. Now the first trigger will play the animation, and then we can add a second one on roughly the same place with the same conditions, so they both fire at once, but this time we'll add a countdown of a couple of seconds and we'll fix the car by using set damage command. So let's say we fix it to 40%. Add a third trigger, again same conditions, same area, and raise the countdown by a couple more seconds. And have the car fully fixed, so in the words of the command 0% damage. We can also break the animation cycle by making the soldier perform an empty animation which resets him to his default stance. And there you go, 3 extra examples. Make sure to scroll down and see the video description. It contains links to all the code used in this video, all examples and all the variations of the same problem. The code is commented as well so that you can orientate yourself better. The description also includes an example mission with these 3 mentioned examples. I don't think you will have many problems making them on your own, but if you really need, you can download the mission and see how the examples are done once again. This is it for this video. I hope to see you all in the next one. Have a great day.